Hello everyone, welcome back to Angela's Craft Room. Today I've got this flower card for you using the Bunch of Blossoms stamp set, which is a photopolymer stamp set. I want to show you how I actually made the flower, and then we'll go ahead and create the card. So to start with, this is the photopolymer stamp set that I use, Bunch of Blossoms. This is the large petal, the large leaf, the center of the flower, the small petal, and then you've got your small leaf. It is a 3-step, but I do it in 2 steps, so I'll explain that as we go. You just have to have a bit of a practice and see which is best for you. So I just want to show you firstly how I stamp my flowers. So I've just got 2 acrylic blocks. I'm just going to pop that one on there and that one on there. Now this is for the large petal, and I've used this image and this image. So I just grab my cherry cobbler, so starting off with this one, which is the outline of the leaf, I just grabbed my piercing mat because I'm stamping with a photopolymer stamp, and it does help. So just stamping that in full cherry cobbler, and I'll just stamp a couple. And what I find best when I'm making these flowers, I just stamp a heap, and then I just put them away, just use what I need and then pop them away for another day. So then I've stamped my next stamp. Now I'm going to stamp that off, and then because it's photopolymer, I can see through my acrylic block to line up this second image. And then it comes out like that. Okay, so we'll just do it once more. And then we're just going to stamp off once, and you just work out. You might like to have it full strength, you might like to stamp off twice. It's just entirely up to you, but that's how the image I liked. So, and then to cut that out, we would use the matching punch. So it punches out the big petal, the little leaf, this center of the flower, and a little circular flower. So it cuts out quite a lot, and it's quite really good to have. So I'll just close that one, and then for my leaf are these 2. So I'll just take the flower off of, and I would normally clean these straight away being photopolymer. So I'm going to put the outline on first using Old Olive. Now I use the same technique for the small flowers, for the small leaf as well. Now, as you saw in my card that I showed you at the beginning, I have these cut out. You need to cut them out, but with your paper snips, because the punch doesn't cut out the big leaves, only the little leaves. So just remember that one. So then for the outline, I just do it the same. Just stamp it down there. In full strength. And what I did with my card was I cut a couple out like that, and then I had a couple that I filled in. So I'll just show you. See on the card where I just stamped the outline, and these ones I filled in like I did with the petals. So then we're going to pop the next image that I used for the big leaf. Now just stamp that off. Let's bring it down so I can look over the top of it to line it up. Press it down so then you can see it fills it in. It doesn't fill in the whole leaf, so you just you get to position it where you want it. Okay, so then you would just go ahead and cut those out. Like I've already cut 2 out for this card and 2 out of those, which I said with the big ones I had to cut them out by hand. And then it's just the same technique, and a tip I would do is when you're stamping, so you're not wasting your cardstock, this is only 1.5 inches wide, so bit of a tip there for you. And then with the little leaf, I'll just show you how I did that one. Just pop those over there. So I used the 1 block for the little leaf. So I'm going to put my outline on first, and using Old Olive, let's bring it down so I can see it. So I'm just going to stamp that down, and I did a couple in Early Espresso as well for this particular card. Then I'm going to put my other image on, stamp it off twice, just line it up. You do need the paper piercing mat underneath. Stamp it off twice. And then you've got your little leaves, and you'd cut them out with the punch, okay? So I had a couple I did in Early Espresso and cut them out with the punch, and then a couple in the Old Olive. And it's just creating your flower. So we'll get rid of that. And we'll go ahead and do the base of the card. I just wanted to show you how I stamped my flowers. Now in this case I've got a piece of cherry cobbler cardstock. So it's just 11 inches long, 4 1/4 wide, and then scored at 5 1/2, and then just burnish it. Then I'm going to bring in a piece of Early Espresso, which will be my first layer, which is 5 1/4 inches by 4 inches. And then I also cut a piece the same size, and this is Emerald Envy, but it's actually a designer series paper. But it just goes really well with the cherry cobbler. And it is from one of the new designer series packs, which is Naturally Eclectic. That's a mouthful. So we want to layer that on there. But as you see on this card, I had a piece of ribbon going down here. That's because I cut this piece in half. So we want to have it cutting this way. So you've got your triangle this way and your triangle this way. So there's a bit of a trick to that, but we'll just pop this aside and we'll bring in the trimmer. So all I'm going to do is make sure I've put it on the right way, and I'm just going to put that point in my cutting track and the point down here in my cutting track, and just make sure, because it will move, it's not a thing that you want to rush. So put it down carefully and just cut that in half. Okay, So we'll most probably have to cut these down. So they're my two pieces that are going to go on the front of the card. So I'm going to bring in my Early Espresso and you'll see what I mean. See how it's going off the edge a little bit, so we'll just need to cut off a little bit, but I'm going to do the bottom first. Now, keeping in mind you want to put your ribbon across here. So the thing is that when you're wrapping the ribbon over the corner, you don't want to have to wrap it over on that point because it's going to be hard. So to get a nice finish, so you need to be trying to wrap it round just off from the corner, and that's what you need to think about when you're gluing this part down. So I'm just going to bring in the trimmer, and all this first line on this side of the trimmer, I just line up that side, pop it down, and I just cut off that little piece, and hopefully that's going to do the trick for me. We'll see. So that's fine. And then we need to do the same. So I'm going to do it on this side this time. So bring in the trimmer again. And I just find it easy to line it up, so I know that it's straight, is to line it up on that first line. So you take that little piece off. Now, I'm most probably going to glue the top piece up a little bit higher, and I might have less of a Early Espresso showing, but it doesn't matter, because as I said, you don't want to have to be trying to get your ribbon folding on the point. So I'll glue this piece on first. Just using the multi-purpose glue. So if I need to move it a little bit, I can. I'll just take this one off. I'm just looking at the top because I know I don't want that ribbon having to go over on that point. Just grab cotton bud, a little bit of glue coming out there. So you don't need too much glue when you're just putting designer series paper down. And then might just put that to about there. So we're just going to add a little bit of glue for this piece, and then we're going to start making our flower. So we're just going to pop this down so we've got it in line with the bottom piece. So that's quite even, that worked out quite well. So that's your mat for your creating your flower. Now with your big flower, what I do is just take my, which I've already done, but I've just taken my bone folder and just twirled a little bit on the edges, just to twirl that up just a little bit. And I do that on the top layer with the small ones as well. Then the best way to position this is, I find, taking one of my leaves, I might take two, so I can see. I'm not going to glue them down yet. I could glue them down, it wouldn't matter. I like that point where this is open here. I like that point down there. But before we do all that, we should put our ribbon in. So I used basic black the first time. This time I'm going to use one of the new ones, which is Pear Pizzazz. And all I'm going to do is grab my tearing tape, and I want a piece about there, and I want a piece about there, just on the two corners where it's going to go over the edge. So it will just hold it while we finish off doing the flower. So I'm just going to grab that. Now this is where it gets tricky because it's the positioning of it. And I most probably haven't cut off quite enough. So I think I'll just pop that down there. You can see how, because I haven't this is just the tricky bit of getting it there. And then I'm going to bring it down. So this end's going to be better for me. Just got to work out which side of that corner is going to so that's going to be the better side, I think. And this is the difficult thing, as I said, like if you get too close to having to put it over on that pointy corner. So it's just a bit of a fiddle. It's not being very nice to me today. So what I might do is, I'm not going to worry that it's going to show a little bit of that early espresso. It's going to add to the card, so I'm just going to go with it, as they say. Like that. Make sure that bit's on so the tear and tape's not going to stick to your grid paper. So I'm just going to go with that. Now I'm just going to grab my paper snips and trim off that bit there. And I'm just going to put a little bit over that tear and tape that's exposed, so that it's not and then you just have to work out which end you want to use to put your flowers. Now this is where your leaves come into it. So I think what I will do is pop them here. I'm going to put some leaves straight down, so it's going to cover like that. So it's going to cover a bit of the gap down here. So I'll just grab my multi-purpose glue once again. And just pop that down. Just make it look a bit neater on that corner. And then I'm going to bring that one out there. And I will put a couple of glue dots, I think, underneath that ribbon. But you do find that once you put all this onto the front of your card, the ribbon will sit down a little bit. So we may not put it on the front of the card until, under the ribbon I should say, until we've actually glued it down. Because once the flower and everything's on it, it just makes such a difference. Okay, so we've got our leaves in place there. Now what I want to do is get the 5 petals. And this is a bit of a fiddle, but what we do is we just put one dimensional under each petal, and then we position it on the card, and then we don't press down on the dimensionals until we're absolutely happy with how it's sitting, how the flower is sitting, because there is a bit of a way to place the flower on the card. You put the petals under each other. So we'll just bring that down. Now I think I will bring that. So don't press down. And then I'm just going to layer over the top of that one, which I feel that's not down enough. Just pop that one down there. Right. Then that one's going to go over the top. So just place it there and press it. And then that one's going to go underneath. And give yourself plenty of room because it is a big flower. And then that one is going to go over the top. And then this one is going to go underneath. And don't worry about the gap in the middle. We want that to be there, so just adjust any of the petals that you're not happy with. And then one test you can do is when you've got that there, just pop that there. You can see just take that off. Because we've got another layer of petals to put on top. We just need to bring this one under. Welcome back, crafters. So sorry about that, I've got a coughing attack. So I've just added the two little leaves down here and up here. Now what we're going to do is just add a little bit of glue so we can place our top layer on there. I have tried using snail, but I find it's just not strong enough. So then I usually use 4 of these. We'll see how we go. I might have to use 5. Then I'm just going to slip that one underneath. Like that. And you can see how our flower is developing, coming together quite nicely. One there, and we just want one more, I think, on this flower. If you just be nice, and it's just going to slip in for me. Because we're going to put a big pearl in the middle. So just let them come up like that. And then we're just going to grab one of the metal ring pearls, the really big ones, and just peel the back off of that. and pop that straight in the middle and press it down quite firmly. They are very adhesive, so you shouldn't have any trouble. And that's how the flower comes out, like that. Now I've gone ahead and stamped a sentiment. Today is the perfect day to be happy, and I've just done that on Whisper White, and then I've backed it onto some early espresso. Now also with the stamping of the petals, I just wanted to mention to you that I did stamp them, the ones that I have on this card, I did stamp them on shimmery white. Just that they do come up a little bit nicer if you stamp them on the shimmery white. So I've just put dimensionals on the back of there, and it's just really where you want to put it, whether you want it down there. I think I'll put it about there. It is going to cover a little bit of one of the leaves, which I'm not really worried about. Then we will for the inside of the card, I've cut a piece of the same designer series paper as I did the front, and it is 5 1/4 inches by 4 inches. And I'm just going to grab my snail for that. But just be careful when you're putting it down using snail. You have to be pretty precise, because I wouldn't recommend trying to pull it up. And I have written in a black marker on this colour, and it does come up quite nicely. So like that. And then what you could do, you could even, as a little bit of extra, got a couple of leaves left over. So what I'm going to do is just pop them in the corner, so it just follows through to the inside of your card. And using the multi-purpose glue, you can see that I can move it a little bit. So just have those in the top corner there, and then we're just going to, what we'll have to do is pop some tear and tape on top of this. So it will stick, because it's quite close to the edge. So we're just going to pop that on there. And just a piece over the ribbon on the other side. It's being naughty for me today, it just won't lift up. hoping I can edit my coughing attack out of the tutorial for you, so you don't have to hear me nearly dying. So then we're just going to add some multi-purpose glue all the way around. And just make sure you've got your card up the right way. Just make sure the top of it is straight, because you've got a lot of layering happening on this card. So I suggest you just press down on the corners and then just run your fingers down the sides. Like so. So that turned out quite well. Now you can see what I mean by that ribbon. I'll just grab my tweezers. It's just sitting up there. It just depends whether it bothers you. I'm going to leave it because I don't like putting any adhesive under my ribbon there, because I feel it shows like little lumps under your ribbon and lace, and that's why I always just adhere it with tear and tape at the back of my card. Now, just as a final touch, you could just put some pearls. So I generally put one big one. And then just a couple of little ones underneath there. You don't have to. It's just... And then I like to do one of the opposite corners. Just balances out your card. So I hope you'll give this a technique a try. It is a really lovely stamp set if you like making your own flowers, and you can just practice with the different colours. So this was the first original one, so they're quite similar, and I think with the early espresso showing there, it's not out of place at all. Shows a bit more dimensional, and then we've just done this one today. So that's using the Bunch of Blossoms photopolymer stamp set along with your matching punch to make it so much easier for you to punch out. So I hope you will give that a try, and I hope that's given you a few ideas with that stamp set. So until next time, happy crafting.